Hi everyone, thank you for joining me here on The Pen Habit. My name's Matt. Glad to have you back for another video review. Now, I realize I'm a little late to the party with this review because I was on hiatus when this pen came out, and it is all anyone has talked about for like 4 months. So today's review is for the TWSBI Eco. TWSBI's latest entry into the piston-filled, affordable piston filler line at $29. So it is a very, very affordable piston filler, one of the cheapest on the market. And people have been talking about it pretty much nonstop for a while now. So first of all, I want to thank the Goulet Pen Company for sending this for review. So thank you to the Goulet Pen Company. There will be a link to this pen on their website in the description on the video on YouTube and also on penhabit.com. Thanks to Brian and Rachel for this. All right, TWSBI Eco. Now, I have had, this will be my third TWSBI pen. So first was the VAC 700, which I still have. Second was the Diamond 580 in rose gold, which I gifted. Liked the pen a lot, but I gifted it because I just wasn't using it as much as I would like to have been. TWSBI is one of the few pen companies that is falling into that sub $100, like above $50, sub $100 range for a lot of their pens. Their pens have features that aren't available on other pens in this price range. And for the most part, their pens write well. Now, they have had problems in the past with cracking and some quality control issues. I personally have never experienced any of those, but I've heard enough about them that I have to believe there is some truth to them. Whatever the problems with cracking pen caps and things like that in the past, TWSBI seems to, in many ways, have gotten it right with the Eco. So let's go through the whole thing. So it comes in this little plastic clamshell case, kind of a frosted plastic. It's got a little sticker on the end here, so you just pop it open, and comes with this little paper insert, which is also the user manual. So it shows you how to take the pen apart and apply the silicone grease, how to fill, and then here's the pen. So you get a little plastic wrench to take the pen apart, some silicone grease, the pen itself, and a nice little reminder to not use alcohol on this pen to clean it, because alcohol can actually cause some problems with the plastic. So in terms of packaging, for a $29 pen, this is fine. This is great. You know, packaging is not the end of the world for these pens, so that's not a huge problem. It's 29 bucks. You're not going to get something super fancy. Then we move on to the pen itself. Now, this is a very interesting pen. It's kind of, you know, if you look at the VAC 700, it's not that much difference in size. And if we just look at some other quick comparables here, you know, here's the Platinum 3776, the Lamy All-Star, and the Mont Blanc 149 for comparison's sake. So it's not as small as you would expect for such an inexpensive pen. It is a little on the small side, but it's not too bad. The cap is this really chunky hexagon. Has a little plastic inlaid TWSBI logo in red, and a nice sturdy clip. It's a little springy, but still pretty sturdy. Has a cutout in the clip, and then it says TWSBI Eco Taiwan. Now, the cap, as it is, I don't love. I mean, I like what they were going for. I like that they were trying something different, but this hexagonal design, I don't love it. And my biggest complaint about the cap is that because of this ring here on the bottom, the flat edges of the pen don't ever actually touch the paper, so it doesn't really keep it from rolling. It's only when you've got the clip down that the clip stops it from rolling. So if you're going to do a hexagonal design, I think they should have gone all the way and done it down here to the edge. Nice thing about the metal on the end, though, is it will keep the end from cracking at all. Clear barrel. Oh, really quickly, the plastic on this comes in either black or white. I went for the black version. I know a lot of people prefer the white version. That's just not really my style. You've got a piston filler mechanism with you know, little rubber gaskets here, and then a plastic piston knob, and the knob just screws out. There's a little rubber ring here which will help with posting the pen. We'll get to that in just a second. In fact, we'll get to that right now. The pen does post, but you have to kind of get it over that little rubber ring. And that rubber ring should also help resolve any of the cracking issues along the lip of the cap that might come up in the future. Got a clear section, so you can see the ink flow, which I really like. One thing to note is in previous versions of this pen, or of TWSBI pens, the section and the barrel would unscrew. This is a single injection molded piece. This is not removable, so cleaning this pen is going to be a little bit trickier than it was on, say, the Diamond 580, which had this, you could pull the section off and clean the nib separately and clean out the barrel separately. You can clean out the barrel of this pen by removing the piston filler mechanism and cleaning it out from this end, but you can't remove this end to clean out the feed. You'd have to pull the feed and the nib straight out. But I do like the section, tapers down a little bit, has a nice little ridge here. And then you come to the nib. So this is a steel nib, and it's a small nib. So here is the number 6 nib on the VAC 700. I don't even know, I don't think this is even a number 5 nib. I think it might be even a little smaller than that. But so just so you know, it's not interchangeable. And because the sections don't come apart, you can't buy a separate nib unit for this. I don't know if you're able to buy a separate nib, but you cannot buy a separate nib unit for this. So just be aware of that. That when you buy this pen, you're going to buy the nib you want, and it's not going to be as easy to swap nibs as it would be in the Diamond 580 or the VAC 700. So for $30, I have to say I'm pretty impressed with what TWSBI has been able to put together here. If you look at other pens in the $30 range, you know, there's the Pilot Metropolitan, which is $15, so half the cost of this, but it's smaller, it's skinnier, it's a cartridge converter pen, comes with a miserable converter, and proprietary cartridges. If you look at the other pen in this range would be, let's say, the Lamy Safari. Now, I don't care for the Lamy Safari all that much. I don't like the triangular grip. They use their own proprietary converters. They do not come with a converter, and they're, you know, they're just not my style. They've got that triangular grip I don't care for. So for the same, about the same price as the Lamy Safari, you get a demonstrator that is very well manufactured, nice, good size, massive ink capacity, and a really, really nice nib. I think if I were to pick a sub $50 pen, this is certainly going to be in the top 3 of sub $50 pens for me. The first being the Faber-Castell Lume, which I just love. I'd say this is probably number 2. I really like this pen a lot. And it has been a very, very solid writer for me for the moment I got it. So let's go over the stats. You are looking at 138.7 millimeters, so a nice good length when it is capped. It's 131 millimeters uncapped, so it's a pen I don't need to use. A little bit of dog hair here, Luke the dog. Everywhere. It's everywhere. I cannot escape it. Next time I get a dog, I'm getting a dog with like no hair or something. I don't know. Maybe an iguana or something. Oh, I'm so tired of being covered in dog hair. Anyway, I love my dog, but sometimes the dog hair gets me a little crazy. So it's very comfortable in the hand without having to post it. Can be posted, as I mentioned. Posted, it's a little long and just feels a little unwieldy at 167.1 millimeters. Now, the section, middle of the section, you're looking at about 10 millimeters here. Widest part of the barrel, you are looking at 12.8, and the widest point of the cap, you are looking at 15.3 millimeters. And uncapped, it's a very light 13 grams. The cap adds another 9 to bring it up to a total of 22 grams. So it's a little bit light, and that's with ink in it. So overall, it feels very solidly built. It's comfortable in the hand. It is a little, I don't love this section as much. especially toward the very end, it is a little contoured, which in a weird way, I can't even, just even by feeling it, I can't tell what it's doing really. It's almost like a square grip. It's kind of weird. And it does feel just a little narrow, although it is 10 millimeters, and I've normally said 10 to 11 millimeters is right in my sweet spot. So I'm not sure why it feels so narrow, but I think it feels narrow in proportion to the barrel. It feels a little weird, but not uncomfortable weird at all. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and do just a little bit of writing now. The pen is a TWSBI Eco in black. We have a steel medium nib. The ink is KWZ Iron Gall Turquoise. I got this ink from Lisa Van Ness, and I am really quite impressed with it. As an iron gall ink, it's very water resistant. And as I write, I want you to pay attention to the color shift of this ink, because it goes on kind of like, you know, Iroshizuku Shoro, kind of a darkish turquoisey color, and then it turns almost blue-black over time, and it kind of oxidizes, as iron gall inks often do. It's a neat ink. I like it a lot. Plus, it's great to address envelopes with, since it is kind of water resistant. All right, here's the quote. All right. So I've been using this pen for a few weeks now, and I have to say, I have never had hiccup number one with this pen. Right off the bat, this pen wrote perfectly. I didn't even rinse out the pen first, like you're supposed to do. I've never had a skip, a hard start. The nib has a slightly feedbacky quality to it. And it's a little on the fine side for a medium. It's a little, I would say, it's like halfway between a Japanese medium and a Western medium, without being quite either. Now, if I were to open this pen up to improve the wetness just a bit, which I may do at some point, I haven't felt the need to do it yet, but if I ever want to play around with it, that might move it more toward a Western medium. But for the most part, I have just been really thrilled. It writes with basically no pressure. It does have a bit of feedback to it, but it's the pleasant sort. It's not the uncomfortable feedback. So the nib was perfectly in alignment. I didn't have to do any adjustments to it. It's not scratchy, going in any direction. Really, I've just been quite impressed with this all the way across the board. In terms of the wetness test, it's I'd say, very moderate, maybe slightly on the dry side, but really not too bad nib. I suspect I will smooth a little bit of the feedback away on this pen. It doesn't need it. It's just for personal preference thing. But really, I've been quite impressed with this pen. It's written perfectly out of the box. No need to do anything to it at all. Huge ink capacity. That's one of the things I've always loved about TWSBI pens. It's got a great ink capacity to it. This is another one of Matt's workhorse pens. This is just a great workhorse pen. This falls into the same category for me as the Faber-Castell Loom or the Pilot Prera. Consistent, reliable, works every time. you know, I just really, I enjoy this pen quite a bit. There is not much in the way of line variation, understandably. It's a steel nib. It's not really intended for that. And for reverse writing, it's not really doing so hot on that. So yeah, it's very, very, very dry, so much so that it's not putting down any ink. Yeah, this is a steal for 30 bucks. It really is a steal for 30 bucks. I would give this a highly recommended. If you're new to the hobby and you don't have a good solid workhorse pen, or you want to play around with a piston filler or a demonstrator, this is a great one to start with. I give this a very, very highly recommended. Great pen for 30 bucks. It would be a great pen for 50 bucks, which is really the best compliment you can give any pen is it's worth more than it costs. I suspect that this model will be around for a long time, and a lot of people will really enjoy using it. It's a nice pen. So that should do it for my review. Again, thank you to the Goulet Pen Company for providing this TWSBI Eco for me for review purposes. It was provided free of charge, but all of my opinions are my own. There were no insistence on altering my reviews accordingly. This is a pen I like quite a bit. So thank you to the Goulet Pen Company, and if you do order it from them as a result of this review, like I said in the beginning, please let them know and thank them for their support of the Pen Habit. That should do it. We will see you here next time on the Pen Habit. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.